What's up, guys? Tim Little, Matt Allen. Welcome back to TacticalBassin. If it feels like you just saw us, it's because you did. Earlier today, we did the casting version of this video. Today, we are talking about mid-range spinning combos. You want to start it off? Or you want me to go?
I'll go for it. Coming out the gate, same exact thing as the last video. There is no... We're not doing these in any sort of an order. There's no price point order to them, but down in the video description, we'll organize them by price point for you so you understand where they all compare to each other. Coming out the gate, I'm going to talk about a Dobyns Sierra. Not a rod that we've talked a ton about, but a rod that I've been using this year. I picked up a Sierra, paired it up with an Ultegra back in spring, and put a bunch of time into it. I used it, let clients use it, really got a good feel for that rod because it's a step up in price from the Fury. I wanted to know how it actually ranked compared to a Fury. And after fishing with it for almost a full year, it's a significant jump up. It jumps almost to the Champion Series in sensitivity, but not in price. So I think that's a great bang for the buck spinning rod. If you're trying to get out of that $100 rod range, try something different. Jumping up to a Sierra is a good way to go. And then that Ultegra, they come in at about 150 bucks, thereabouts. Very consistent reel, and they pair up well. I like that combo.
Technique specific. We talked about this in today's earlier video, these technique specific rods. And one of the rods that I fell in love with this year, actually out when I was in Michigan smallmouth fishing, is the Daiwa Tatula Elite. It has the AGS guides on it, but this is actually a longer spinning rod. It's a 7'6" super light tip. So this is a hair jig rod, a spy bait rod, Ned rig rod, super universal, but it's got that longer action. You know, we've talked about that deflection where you can see that rod tip bending before you actually feel a bite. And this is a great rod for it. A specific rod for throwing hair jigs, spy baits, Ned rigs. The Tatula Elite with the AGS guides for me now is a must-have. I paired that up. This is an old Daiwa Steez that still is it's a phenomenal reel. But the Tatula Elite LT, I think Tatula LT is another reel that I got to play around with, and I like that reel. The Stratic CI4 Plus, they're all right in that same price point. Check these guys out.
Next one I'm going to talk about is a cash-in. We talked about cash-in in the mid-range, didn't we? Am I crazy? We didn't. I'm looking over at the mid-range rods. We didn't. Well, good. I'm glad I grabbed one to talk about in the spinning line. What I like when we get into the mid-range gear, what I like about that is we can bring a bunch of stuff to the table that you don't always see. Because when we go out, a lot of times when we're just fishing, we're using higher end gear. So you don't see a lot of that mid-range stuff. But there's a bunch of mid-range gear that's really, really nice. The cash-in is one of those. What I like about cash-in, it's going to sound just like what I said this morning about St. Croix. They tend to be, one, a softer rod, and two, they tend to flex lower into the blank. I can take this rod that you can't see down to the floor, but I'm folding that rod in half. What I like about that, same thing Tim's talking about with long rods, where you can pull on that thing, you can see that tip given. Well, what's nice about cash-in is even in the shorter rods, because they are a little more parabolic, even in the short rods, you get that same thing. So that's a really nice option that we don't get to talk about a whole lot. Paired that one up with a Noski, which is coming in right around 100 bucks for that reel. That's a great mid-range combo that's not going to break the bank.
Yeah, cash-in has some cool technique-specific rods in their lineup. You guys should check those out as well. The next one I'm going to go with the Dobbins Champion Extreme. Not the entire line, but the 742. My personal favorite, I think one of your favorites, the 792. They discontinued a couple years back. But the 742, 7'4", 2-power is a rod that I still use in my lineup. It's a very sensitive rod, super light. It's a rod that you can drop shot with. You can Ned rig on. You can throw light Nico rigs on.
Little baby Kitech.
Little baby Kitech, yeah, 1.8 or 2.8 on like an 1/8 ounce head, something like that. The Dobbins 742 Extreme, that rod specifically is a great rod. Paired that up with a Shimano Ultegra. Right, it doesn't break the bank, but you get a lot of that higher end technology down in a lower price point. So that is you save a little bit on the reel, but that is a phenomenal combo.
Mm-hmm. Next one I'm going with the Loomis GLX. Just like Tim was saying, I don't know how it didn't make it into the high end combo video last month. It was one step down. We have so much ridiculous high end gear between us that it was hard to pare it down. But I will tell you, you already saw in that video, Tim talked about spinning rods. He brought a bunch of his high-end spinning rods. I brought a bunch of my high-end casting rods, and that's because we each spent more money into the category that we enjoy the most. So Tim put his dollar into finesse, where it serves him the best. I put my dollar into power fishing, where it served me the best. So this right here, 742, 742. That's what you just said.
Yeah.
852. Sorry. Switching back to GLX. 852S JWR is my favorite spinning rod. I haven't thrown more money and gone into the super high end because I don't do as much finesse fishing as some other guys do. I spend more of my time power fishing. So the GLX is my high end. It is. And then I paired that up to an X-Sense, which is absolutely a very high-end reel. But I love that combo. Tim told you earlier the 852 was his favorite combo. That was the first high-end reel he ever got, or first high-end rod he ever got into. It's still my favorite high-end rod. They're awesome.
And casting as well. The 852 and casting, you have one of those
in the NRX.
Of course. Because he likes that action so
love
much.
it. But I prefer casting when I get into that high-end stuff.
Right, and it's not that I prefer it more. I just feel sensitivity for me. It matters more to me. You know, that technique specific, that feel. Anyways, the next rod I'm going to talk about, and we've beat this horse all year. Bestseller, the Shimano XPRIZE. In earlier today's video, I talked about when I was first introduced to the XPRIZE line, how it was lighter and more sensitive to the higher end gear. I was just fishing that I just set down to pick it up. Mm-hmm. This is now my drop shot rod. It's my little Kitech rod if I'm vertically fishing, or a little underspin, like a little 2.8 on underspin. That is the rod I throw it on. The XPRIZE, they're just super sensitive, super lightweight, very comfortable, and deserve to be at a much higher price point. We've talked about that. But if you guys are looking to get into a phenomenal rod and doesn't break the bank compared to some of the high-end stuff, look at the Shimano XPRIZE. There's a reason that they are the #1, a bestseller on Tackle Warehouse, and they're always sold out. Yeah. And they sell better than Shimano can keep up with, really. Right. And that's why they're back ordered. But pair that up with the Stradic CI4 Plus. Phenomenal reel in that price point. You guys, this is a combo that no matter what your price point is, you should have.
Yeah. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the Shimano Zodius. Same thing we talked about this morning. Shimano does an amazing job of carrying the actions between the lines. So at least as of this morning, there was the XPRIZE in, I believe it was the 7-foot Light Plus, was still in stock, which is an amazing drop shot rod. If you want some of the other actions, you'll have to back order it in the XPRIZE, or you can step down one step, a little bit in sensitivity and a little bit in price, and you land at the Zodius. The actions are identical, and they're all in stock. The Zodius has been awesome this year. Taken it all over the place, everywhere we've gone. Done everything from catching big smallmouth on it, to big spotted bass, to largemouth, to trout fishing, to crappie fishing. I mean, it's just a do-everything, super nice workhorse rod. And they carry it in a bunch of great sizes and actions. I've started using the medium light a lot more than I used to. That really soft tipped rod, and then dropping down to a 1000 size reel. It's that same Stradic CI4 Plus, but at 1000 size. It's so nice to drop shot on that little rod, a little reel, super sensitive. I really get a kick out of that. It's the total opposite end of the spectrum from what we used to do. Well, still do with some applications, but I used to use an extra long rod, a 7.9. He talked about how that was discontinued a few years ago. I used to use a 7.9 and a big spinning reel. And now I'm doing the same thing with a little short rod and loving it.
Yeah, I feel like the Zodius line is kind of overshadowed by the XPRIZE because the XPRIZE is so good, but so is the Zodius.
Right.
You know, $200. It doesn't break the bank, and it's another rod that should be in a higher price point. As far as
use a ton of them.
As far as reels, I've played with going, you know, with the smaller 1000s and going up to the 3000s. You know, Shimano, they're coming out with they have the X's out in the 3000 size. So there's different ends of the spectrum, about line twists and those sort of things. So think about that when you're purchasing a reel to match up with your rod. But there you guys have it. A 2-for-1 day today. We got 2 videos out in hopes that you guys will get this stuff. If you order today, it will show up before Christmas.
Yeah, today was the last day that you could ground ship. After this, you could, you know, second day or something like that, or overnight to get gear to you, but that gets pricey. So we wanted to get both of these in there for you today, where you could still ground ship gear in time for Christmas. We hope you guys enjoyed the videos. We hope that they were helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. We will do everything we can to help you because we know you're right down to crunch time. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.